Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another Kobiton webinar. My name is Drew Williams. I'm the marketing manager for Kobiton. Today's title is Apples to Oranges, Making the Switch from Perfecto Mobile. Today we'll be discussing some really exciting trends happening in the testing space, both now and in the near future. And in addition, we'll also discuss how platforms like Kobiton and tools like Perfecto Mobile play a role in this shifting landscape. Today, I'm joined by the Kobiton CTO, Frank Moyer, and one of our account executives, Clay Montgomery. And just as an FYI to everyone on the call, today's webinar recording will be made available to you all early next week. And so without further ado, I will go ahead and turn it over to Frank. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much, Drew. I appreciate that introduction. And I'd like to start off with a brief history of the mobile testing landscape. How did we get here? And by my latest calculation, there are currently over a dozen mobile testing platforms out there. So, if we rewind back to pre-2006, the early 2000s, we were at a point of witnessing an explosion in mobile growth. Smartphones, as we know them today, didn't exist. And around 2006, Perfecto was founded, and they saw the opportunity. And this was an interesting point. They were originally focused on building testing platforms for the carriers to test on mobile devices. At the time, right after that, around that time, we had other innovations going on in the tech world. So headless browsers, virtual machines, and smartphones were all coming into play. That headless browsers allowed for us to do automated testing using Selenium. So companies like Sauce Labs and Browser Stack were founded on the back of that technology. Virtual machines allowed them to run that in any environment in the cloud. And then the introduction of the smartphone made the switch to testing the carriers for Perfecto to actually testing mobile applications is where they focus today. If we fast forward a little bit to what's happened in the past 5 years, so TensorFlow was open sourced by Google to make machine learning accessible to the world, and it really has changed what we do day in and day out outside of our testing roles, but also is beginning to have an influence in the testing space, and I'll talk more about this shortly. And then Kobiton was founded right after that, 2016, and I'll talk about it on the next slide. And the goal here was to make mobile testing accessible to the world. What Perfecto had done early days for big corporations and big enterprise customers, we wanted to make that more accessible. The inspiration for Kobiton was from Vu Lam and Josh Lieberman. They had successfully founded QA Symphony. The Q-Test product was the flagship product for QA Symphony. They were able to go up head-to-head against HP Quality Center, which was the 800-pound gorilla back in 2010 when they founded QA Symphony. And they grew QA Symphony to thousands of customers and have had tremendous success. And they, back in around 2015, 2016, had observed the deficiencies in Perfecto. They saw in some of their clients that were working with QA Symphony and KMS, the parent company, they observed deficiencies in performance. They thought it was very slow, and it was also expensive. Only the big enterprise Fortune 500 size companies could afford Perfecto. So they saw an opportunity to repeat the success they had in QA Symphony in the mobile testing platform space, and they spent a year and a half building out Kobiton with more modern technology that made it easier for them to build so they could bring down the price point, and also with technology that allowed them to deliver a better user experience that was very responsive to user interactions for both manual and automation testing. Meanwhile, what we've seen recently with Perfecto is they've just been acquired. Perforce acquired Perfecto Mobile within the past 6 months. And what, we're not sure, we haven't heard much yet from what that means to Perfecto. Where will Perfecto Mobile fit into the Perforce operation? Will it be a priority for them to invest in the innovation and the platform? Do they continue to invest in automation? Do they continue to invest in openness and interoperability? It's been one of the challenges with Perfecto so far has been interoperability and openness of their platform. And Perforce has a whole tech stack similar to Xamarin that will be Perfecto, we expect, will be a part of. So that's sort of what's going on both on the Kobiton side and the Perfecto side. And then in the overall mobile testing landscape right now, we're seeing a lot of money going into AI and machine learning with regards to testing. This is, I can reel off a half a dozen investments of over $5 million in the past 2 years. Rainforest raised $25 million. We've got Test.ai, Test.im, a few others that are in the specifically focused on test automation, testing, and machine learning. When Kobiton sees this as advances in machine learning and AI do not replace the tester. They augment the tester to make the tester superhuman. And we see, it's critical that whatever technology stack is being used to support testing and machine learning is able to respond with modern technology to the rapid growth in data necessary to train machine learning models. I talk about the exhaust that comes from test execution, and this is just going to continue to grow when we look at video screenshots, application logs. We had a customer last month execute parallel 60 devices for 24 hours of testing on all 60 devices. And they captured video for all of that and wanted to archive it. So this is going to continue to be a priority for testing, the ability to capture the history and learn from history, not just manually looking through history, but also unleashing the power of machine learning to help understand how to make their operations better. Continuous testing demands testing agility. So it's this phrase that's been around for years now, continuous testing. You have to have automation in place to make it successful. And you need to be able to add tests for new functionality in hours. Sometimes this takes days or weeks using traditional methods of writing tests in automation frameworks. And we see there's a great opportunity to allow the tester to create those tests rapidly using open source technology like Appium, and update those tests in hours instead of days or weeks. And then the other thing is, focus on a product for your testing platform that is open source and easy to migrate. We often get requests from prospects of, they're worried because they've got hundreds of scripts written in Perfecto, and how do they get off of Perfecto? And that's a big challenge. You want to make sure you make that mistake once, but the next vendor you choose, you're not going to be sitting there in 3 years going, oh man, I wish I hadn't written all of my scripts in Kobiton, because they're going to lock in. We fully support open source and Appium, and anything you build on our platform, you'll be able to migrate off to another platform using Appium. So we talk about apples and oranges. Where does Perfecto make sense? How is it different than Kobiton in terms of where does Kobiton fit and where does Perfecto fit? And I see that Perfecto is a great product for companies, large enterprises that can afford, $100,000 annual deals. That is their a sweet spot for them. Or there's a real focus recently for Perfecto to focus on testing IoT devices. And a lot of companies don't mind the vendor lock-in for record and playback technology. And Perfecto's record and playback technology is advanced, mature. Right now, it's a very good product, and we are investing heavily in making a product that is feature parity with Perfecto's, but still gives you the same flexibility to run on Appian. So that's just a brief overview of my view of Perfecto versus Kobiton. I don't want to, I think Perfecto is a very strong product. We are grateful to them being in the industry, and it's always been a healthy competition. And we hope they're continue to invest in innovation so that the entire industry can take advantage of their innovation and our innovation. So I'm going to hand over to Clay Montgomery, who's going to demonstrate Kobiton, so you can get firsthand see how Kobiton is in terms of performance and feature functionality. So with that, I will hand over to Clay.
So Frank, thanks for giving a little bit of a background. Frank gave a background on some of the history and some of what Perfecto does, and as sort of a sales guy, I guess, I get asked all the time, what are the differences between you and Perfecto or other solutions in the market? As Frank mentioned, we are not one to shy away and say, hey, there's other solutions in the market. What we think we do the best in mobile. So we're not going to shy away from that. So I want to sort of just highlight a few of those reasons why we think we are better and what differentiates ourselves in the market. I don't plan on giving a full demo today, so if anyone on the webinar wants a full demo from soup to nuts, it's going to take an hour. I'm more than happy to do it. You can reach out to myself or reach out to Drew afterwards, and we can get that set up. Really today, I want to focus and I want to be efficient with everyone's time here because no one wants to sit on an hour-long webinar. So I want to be efficient with time to really highlight this area where we differentiate. And for me and for us here at Kobiton, we really think that we differentiate ourselves in 3 areas. And those areas are really performance, flexibility, and flexibility I'll go into a few different things, and then sort of the elephant in the room is cost, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. But with performance, the best thing I can do to prove performance to you guys is to just flat out show you. So when you come into Kobitons, or some of you guys may be Kobiton users today, you may be in trials, you may have used trials in the past, you may be thinking about starting a POC with us or something, but when you first come into Kobiton, we try to keep things very simple, very clean. So when I come in here, I have 3 different options of devices. It's either my favorites, mine that are private to my organization, or our larger cloud devices that's down here that has various Android and iOS devices of high-end models to low-end models, new OSs to old OSs, so on and so on. But what I want to do is hover over one of these devices, and the first thing that comes up is the launch device prompt. So I want to just quickly launch this device. So I click on this. This device will begin to launch. For Kobiton, this is one of the things too, you don't want to sit here for a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes or however long it takes. So we try to make this as quick of a process as possible. So it should be 10 to 15 seconds. So as you saw, that did not take very long. And when you're in this device, our whole goal is to make it feel like a real device in hand, because what we have traditionally seen when talking to folks either using devices in-house or they're potentially using a different vendor, one of the biggest complaints they have and constantly have is, yeah, we don't use them because they're too slow, they're too clunky, they're too hard to get around. And if you were going to purchase a solution and not use it, then you're just throwing money away. So our whole goal is to give you that true, real user experience. So if I'm in this device and I swipe up, the device swipes up. I swipe back down, the device swipes back down. there should be little to no latency or lag or anything with our devices. If I click on Chrome to open up Chrome, Chrome will open up. If I search for, say, like QA, I got to type right, QA Symphony will come up. And I can click here. I can use my keypad. I can use whatever. When I click to drag, it should drag down just like it would if you were using, your finger. If I click on it, it should click. It should open up. So, this seems like a really small thing, but if every time I click, it takes 2 seconds to load, you think, well, it's 2 seconds. It's not that big of a deal. 2 seconds across a 5-minute long test will drive you absolutely crazy. We've gotten some good compliments from folks who've used Perfecto in the past or other solutions, and a lot of times they'll come to us and say, how do you guys get it so fast? And frankly, that's for people who are smarter than myself. But the whole goal is to have this type of performance, have it where when you click and drag, it drags. I can also use my trackpad. I can drag down. The device should scroll smoothly. That's how devices are designed. I have other functions over here where I can pinch to zoom. I can rotate it to landscape. So there's different functionalities you can do, but really, when it comes to us and comes to what we do, performance is one of the big differentiators, and what we think, and we really pride ourselves on, not only in a manual test, but also through automation as well. You should see great performance. You should see that your scripts run faster on our devices than on some other vendors out in the market. So I'm going to go ahead and exit this device and go back to the first page I was on. The other key area that I really hit on is flexibility. I use flexibility as an extremely broad topic, but flexibility is flexibility in a few different ways. So one is flexibility of deployment. So we have really 3 different methods of deployment. We have our large public cloud devices that I mentioned earlier that you can see down here. We also have private devices here. These private devices can be made up of devices that we at Kobiton, we procure them, we host them for you in our data centers here in the U.S., and then grant you and your organization access to them. And we also allow for individuals to host their own devices. So we work with organizations that they've already made a big investment. They have 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 devices in their office. They don't want to just throw those away. They would love to be able to increase the ROI on those devices. So we allow them to host those as well locally. At the same time, maybe for future devices, we host them for them. And then also at the same time, they have purchased minutes on our public cloud because they use that for edge testing or support cases or something like that. Mobile is growing so quickly, and it's sort of ever evolving that there is no like one solution of I just need 5 private devices and that'll cover everything. That's just not reality. And how you're testing today may not be the same as how you're testing in 6 months, and your customer base may not be the same. You have 80% iOS users right now, and all of a sudden you guys release a app in Europe or Asia, and all of a sudden you go to 50-50, Android and iOS overnight of releasing an app. So we understand those things change, and we want to be able to support you throughout that. Another part of the flexibility is with automation. So I didn't really hit on this, but inside of Kobiton, everything automation-wise is run through our open API. So it's all Appium or Selenium based, as Frank alluded to earlier. So there is no vendor lock-in. There is no, what do I do with my scripts? You should always be using Appium or Selenium scripts with Kobiton. And with those scripts, you're able to run them on our devices no matter what tool you're using. So if you're using Jenkins, if you're using Circle CI, Team City, a newer company we were speaking with recently is using Go. I mean, if you're using Jira for test case management or QA Symphony or whatever, that shouldn't matter. As long as they're Appium or Selenium-based scripts, we can support your needs. And if we don't have an integration with a tool you're using today, we are talking a conversation in a day or 2 to get that integration built, not weeks or months or anything of that nature. And then the last thing when it comes around flexibility as well is something that differentiates us from a lot of our other competitors is our flexibility in users and concurrency. So we don't have any limitation on number of users. We also don't have any limitation on concurrency. So You can have one person testing, doing manual testing, or as Frank alluded to, one of our customers ran 60 test sessions for 40 or for 24 hours straight. They did this for almost 3 weeks straight because they had a really tight release cycle coming up. We don't have any limitation there. We realize that teams grow throughout the year. Maybe different teams need access, whether it's dev, whether it's QA, whether it's support, whether it's product. So we want to have a platform that is flexible to your needs and can be shifted throughout the year and not have you locked in. And then another thing that Frank sort of alluded to was on the automation side, we are actively building a couple of additional solutions to really enhance the Appium side of things. But in that same flexibility vein, we plan to create a solution that is one of the best in the enterprise, but at the same time, we are going to leverage open source technology throughout that process. So at any point in time, if you do say, hey, Kobiton's not cutting it for me, you can take your 100 or 500 or 2,000 scripts with you, and we will never lock you in or have some sort of proprietary tool that you can't somewhat leverage in taking your scripts away. We want you to be flexible, because if you're wanting to leave us, that means we have failed on our side of the job. And then lastly, not really in the demo here, but Frank touched on it a little bit, but that was cost. So in all of this, the performance you guys saw, I mean, we pride ourselves on performance. We pride ourselves on having as real of an experience as possible, and that is great. The flexibility of deployment, we want to talk with you, talk with your company, find out what is best for you guys, and truly figure out the deployment methodologies that will work best for you. And the last is cost. So with all of this, we oftentimes come in at a third or maybe a quarter of the cost of Perfecto and what they have quoted to folks or what they're using now, because we just feel like you shouldn't necessarily have to have $250,000 or $100,000 to test on mobile. It's becoming very important to companies of all sizes, so we want to be able to work with you in that regard as well. But for the most part, that's what I wanted to highlight today. Drew and Frank, if there's anything that you guys want to discuss or want to talk about on top of what I just showed, more than happy to talk through this. Or Drew, if we have any questions, more than happy for Frank and I to start addressing those as well, or if you guys think I need to touch on anything else.
Hey, Clay, thanks for that great presentation. And Frank, thank you as well. It does look like we have a few questions lined up already, and please feel free to add more as we continue on. But first one is, if we already have devices, it sounded like you said we can connect them to Kobiton. My question is, can that device then be remotely accessed by my team in another location, or do they still have to have that device in their hand?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and touch on that one. Yes. So if you already have your devices, we have a lot of customers that are in this situation. You can connect that device to Kobiton through a Mac machine and our desktop app, and I can always go into more detail on that. And that will essentially then virtualize that device. So that device would then come up into this section here. So this would be your company name, devices, and then those devices can be accessed from anywhere in the world globally, as long as you have added them to your Kobiton org. So it's a great way to increase ROI or not have to purchase redundant devices. If you have teams here in the US and in Europe and in Asia, you can purchase one new iPhone instead of 3 new iPhones or whatever it may be. So yes, they're accessible from all over the world.
Awesome. Okay. Looks like the next question is, what do you do for pre-production apps that need some secure access back to one of our servers? We lock down our access pretty tightly and are pretty hesitant with cloud solutions.
Yeah, I can cover that.
Frank, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, sure. So one of the differentiating capabilities of Kobiton is our deployment flexibility. The customer, you can deploy everything from using our devices in our public cloud, where it's you're using devices in a multi-tenant type approach, to having your devices and the entire Kobiton platform running behind your firewall. We're working with a one of the three-letter agencies up in DC right now that are looking to deploy this with one of their systems integrators that's in a completely behind a closed network. So it's what I like to refer to as sneaker net. The only way to get data from one part of the network out to the world is by putting it on a disk and carrying it and plugging it into another network that has internet capability. So in a completely closed off environment, you can run Kobiton without any internet access. And we have a lot of variants in between. So you can, if you want to connect your devices that we host to your network, we can set up a virtual private network or a tunnel between the Kobiton data center and your network. A lot of that depends on your level of flexibility and the ability of the security team and the network team and the willingness to open that up to remote access from Kobiton.
Awesome. Thanks, Frank. Looks like this next one will also be directed at you. Can you talk a little bit more about what Kobiton is doing with AI and machine learning in the immediate future?
Yeah, so we are going to schedule some additional webinars on that topic. I will give you a appetizer for that. We see machine learning and AI as, again, a way to increase the superhumanness of the tester. And we believe that the ability for a tester to run against a single device and be able to re-execute that exploratory test against a multitude of devices and have the results of those tests be automatically shown to the tester to review and assess whether the machine got it right is critical. The interoperability with Appium so that you can walk away at any point is also critical to that AI machine learning future. And there's quite a lot behind the scenes that we're building. We're not like just taking one algorithm. It's dozens of algorithms that are using TensorFlow and other machine learning and AI technology to make the tester superhuman.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in with that. I mean, Frank and I have talked about this at length. Of, we really think that AI and machine learning can greatly assist the tester, but we're not one of those that thinks that some robot is just automatically one day going to be able to complete all of the testing that's being done. We do feel there's always going to need to be human interaction, human eyes, all of that. But we do think that through some of the things that we're putting in place and through some of the new technology in the market, that it's going to be able to greatly enhance and make us all a lot more efficient.
Great. Looks like we've got one of the golden questions here. Is this priced per user, or can you tell me a bit about how the pricing structure works?
Yeah, I'll take that. So it's not priced per user. So as I mentioned at some point in there, Kobiton has unlimited number of users and concurrency. I guess I should have mentioned there's also no additional cost for users or concurrency. So with Kobiton, it's an extremely simple pricing model. For our public cloud, it will be based on a per minute charge. So you would purchase a set amount of minutes up front, and then you'll be able to use through those minutes in a given time period. And if you have private devices, whether they're you hosting them or us hosting them for you, those will be a flat cost. And then those devices would have unlimited minutes. There would be no charge there. So public cloud, per minute charge, private devices, flat cost, but no additional cost for any users or concurrency or anything of that nature.
All right. Well, with that, looks like we are out of time here and out of questions. So I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. In the meantime, I'd like to encourage everyone to head over to our website and download our Appium guidebook. It's a free download, and it has been a great resource for teams thus far in terms of helping them go from manual testing to really stretching the capabilities of their resources and moving towards automation testing. So again, I do encourage everyone to go and download that. If you have any further questions, feel free to email us at marketing@kobiton.com. Otherwise, the recording will be available again at the beginning of next week. And so I look forward to speaking with you all again on the next webinar. Thanks again for joining, and thank you to our panelists.